Round one of Supercoach NBL is in the books. It was a good starting team for me, a good starting week. I was very happy with where I'm at, sitting at 799th overall out of almost 17,500 teams. So it's actually a slight bit lower than it was last year, surprisingly enough. It's the second year in the Supercoach iteration, but 250 for me. Got most things correct. A couple of things I could have done a little bit different and potentially had set myself up in a slightly different way for round two. But overall, very happy with the setup, and it puts me in a good spot, as I said, to be able to push into higher honors over the next bunch of weeks. And let's get into that now. So I got 3 league wins for myself, which was lovely. And let's get in and check out all those leagues and then my team as well. So just a quick one on the Podmasters overall. So I am into that as well. 11th out of 28, which is pretty good for my first year of properly, actually making content on the NBL. Played last year as well. Big NBA fan. So yeah, it's a decent amount of knowledge on it, but first time actually fully studying it, which is cool. But congrats to Troy in at 38th there, and Alistair in at 90th. But obviously, 16 points difference between myself and Troy is a lot of ranks right now. 760 ranks, which is pretty crazy. 770 actually, yeah, almost 761 is exact there. Is the difference between Troy and myself, and all these guys with the same team, obviously 258 apiece. So yeah, not too much of a difference between all of our sides there, with a few guys unfortunately struggling down in the 180s and 90s, and then 210s, 220s. Kind of just depended which guy you picked. If you picked like a Harrison and captained him, that was a bit tough. If you captained Jack White, that made it a bit tough as well. So yeah, got 3 wins in the JBFA crew for myself, which was nice. 225, 236, and 236. So anyone that jumped into those, good stuff. That's going to be going to be plenty of fun there. Into third, and fourth. So not the best differential as of yet, but a really, really good start there. In terms of my team, I had Darius Days, was very, very keen on him after the blitz. So 43 for him was great. White with 19, Lockie Aldrich and Kelly Lepepe. Lepepe had 10 at half time, unfortunately, and then just missed a heap of his threes. So hopefully a few of those fall in the next couple of weeks. He had a couple of good plays as well. He had a good charge, that he was able to get, but obviously, unfortunately, get no points on it. And it was on Kendrick Davis, who was in my team. So I lost 2 points on the play, which was a good play from Lepepe taking that charge. But just some things you don't get points on in this game, and others are really, really looked upon really well, like a block or a steal, for example. And obviously those assists, double-doubles, all the fun stuff there. But Jack White with the 19 was pretty low, unfortunately. And I do expect him to have a really good bounce back couple of games here. Just nothing really went his way. He didn't get a lot of shots, didn't make a lot. Just a rusty start. And it was taken over by Delhi. And obviously Illy played really well also, and Rob Lowe. So yeah, I think that White will get his opportunity. I expect a 25 to 30 average at least over the next 2 games. So yeah, definitely you could bench him. You could if you had a couple of doubles on here, but it just seems like you need to stick with him. But Aldrich was great with the 32. I had Cam Oliver in the starting center with 31, was good. Zakarski, not so much. So him and Harrison both got played out of the game, unfortunately. They played very, very small in the end, New Zealand, with Gillespie out suspended. And they were absolutely cooking Brisbane when those 2 guys were on the floor. So I imagine it will improve for both of them in the next few weeks. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be sticking around to find out with Zakarski without any doubles for a good while. Bryce Cotton was my captain, 42. He actually had no 2-point field goals. He missed a bunny layup, but made 8 threes, which is crazy, and was fairly low on all the other stats there. To get him a 42 with a couple of steals was fine. But with a few of the other guys, Jalen Adams and these types of guys going nuts, they ended up being the play over Cotton. You had Derek Walton Jr. had a 39 as well, so he was really good. But we'll jump in and show you who could be some potential options for you this week. And Kendrick Davis come up against a tough Kings side, obviously. He didn't look himself at all in the first half. In the second half, he improved, but the stats didn't come as much. He had 4 turnovers in the end, so made it tough on that front to really get the ball rolling points. Supercoach points wise because of those turnovers, but I think that'll improve over the next few weeks. And then had Henschel's 27, Will Hickey with 11. Wasn't too bad at all. It's a bit above where he's priced at. Obviously, it's only Zakarski that hasn't hit his break even there at 95,000. and Cotton, who doesn't have a double, along with Davis. So I do need to improve things in the guard position to get doubles on the park. And our doubles this week, we have Southeast Melbourne and Melbourne United. We have Illawarra and we have Sydney. They're the 4 doubles this week. So have a look at those guys. Melbourne have 2 doubles in a row. Southeast Melbourne, Illawarra and Sydney don't. The best team to hold out of those 4 outside of United is going to be the Kings, because they have a double in round 4. So they skip 3. They have a single game in 3, and then have a double in 4. So if you're looking at those guys, awesome. And then anyone that you do own from Cairns, from Perth there, from Adelaide, and from Tassie, and who else is it? In Melbourne, the 5 teams that have the double in the following round, in round 3. So just be aware of that. And just quick, have it down the side here, have a look at the teams that are there for round 3. And there's obviously some charts that are out there as well. So that's cool on that front. But let's look at some options heading into this week. So the forward position, let's have a muck around with removing Jack White from the side, which we won't do that. And Darius Days seems like the clear option this week. He scored the highest in the forward position and pretty well at the cheapest price point there at 277k. There's a bunch of guys that are obviously a little bit more expensive that are doing well, but there's a few to look out for in the next couple of weeks as well, or this week here. So we'll have a mention of those guys as well. But Keanu Pinder, he played great, picked up 5 threes. He doesn't have a double this week, so you could wait one more and then potentially grab him in round 3 for their doubles there. Matt Hurt, he has a double this week, and if you need a forward or a center at the similar price point to that, and you already have Days, I think Matt Hurt is a really, really good option for that. But if you aren't going for Days, which I think a lot of people will, you have Oliver, you have White. I think it's hard to grab another because you'll have to play one of these guys to have a double that are good, strong players on the bench, which not sure if that's exactly what you want, but you have options in there for Hurt to play in that center position as well as Pinder. Cooks as well, a really solid guy to have. He looked good, involved in everything. There's not much else to say on that front. In terms of the other more expensive guys, Oliver, if you didn't start with him, good guy to have this week. Sam Froling, I just don't think he has the upside. I think he'll be really solid, high 20s to 30 odd, up to 40. We've seen him hit that kind of range pretty regularly, and that's what you're going to get from a lot of centers compared to that of your forwards who, the 3s and 4s who can get involved in a bunch of different areas and have the 3s and all the rest as well. But some of the cheaper guys you might want to look at, I think Lat Mayen, you can definitely wait one more week with him, but at 133k, if he has a good week in round 2, and he's one of those guys that we saw him have a -10 in the blitz, so there's definitely a risk of getting burnt by him if he happens to go low, but he did look great. And the good thing with Lat is you can wait the 1 week, and if things go well, then you can use your second or third trade in you could bet boost to whatever you want in next week to get yourself Lat in to free up some cash to go to a couple of doubles players that are guns, whether that's bringing in a Cotton or something like that. You could use Mayen to get to that. And Mayen has the doubles in round 3 and 4, so that's a fun one. Alex Tui, if you are looking for an under 200k guy, he is the guy to pick this week at the forward position at 191k. Picked up a 34. It was a very slow start. He was like 11 at half time, and then really picked things up with some steals. He did have 3 steals, which was obviously pretty big. But under 200k, if things go well in this double, he will make cash. And the guys that have a cash symbol, especially if they're sort of under 200k, they've done that one there, and they're expected to sort of make some good cash. Tui will make some good money. Same with Ulbrich, so make sure you do get Ulbrich. I'd have him at number 1 on the list at 121k, just because he'll go up so much more if he picks up a couple of 20 odd scores in this one. Magnay went off with potential for concussion. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't heard anything since, but just be aware of that, and he might be one to move on. Rob Lowe at 173k is the other cheaper guy to look at this week. Has the center forward duel, has doubles for the next 4 games. He has 2 doubles now, and he's someone that I didn't start with that I kind of wish I did, but it would have stopped me from getting a few other players, and that's fine. So Rob Lowe is a really, really solid one to look at this week, just because he's going to go up in cash. Like if he picks up sort of a 2 20s over the next week here, they've got him projected for this round. What they got him projected for? what did it say? Projecting around 225. So that's projecting him to score 27.5 per game there. And with that break even at 19, he'll go up 26k if he scores that 45 in this round. But if he goes a little bit under that, it'll be around that 20k, which is a really good jump there in the first lot of price rises. And if he happens to score well the next 2 weeks, then they'll still be in his rolling average there, and he'll be able to keep going up. And these type of players under 200k, if you can get them right, then you can quickly get them up to sort of the import price guys and even above eventually, if you can get these cash cows and mid-level guys going in the right direction. I think that's really, really important. Some of the other guys you might want to look at, just have a look at Nick Marshall for this week. So seeing what happens for him coming into his doubles in round 3. You've got guys like Izan Almanza, 14 for him, really solid. Obviously the price, some of these guys have done really well. Ulbrich, Henschel. So if you don't have them, then pushing for those guys. Like he did a little bit better than Lepepe, but he's almost double the price. So that's all you really want to look at in that forward position. But there's plenty of things to think about as to what you're going to do around that position. We already spoke about Pindar hurt. Didn't mention Montrezl Harrell, but him with Adelaide, I think, again, you're waiting one more week and seeing one more game for him, one more round to see how things go. He looked really, really busy, and I think his minutes will probably increase a little bit. He looked really, really good out there on the park. I was going to say on the court for Adelaide. They're in that one. All these guys all the dual guys. Tanner Groves look really solid. Limped off at the end of that game, so we'll see how that one goes. But definitely watch one more week before jumping on him. Jordan Hunter scored really well, and he had a good combination with Derek Walton Jr. So if you do own him, stick steady with him most likely, unless you need to go to like a Cam Oliver or something like that. Just be aware, guys. You use your 2 trades this week. You have basically, when I say unlimited trades, you have 2 per week every single round. You don't run out. If you use them, the only things you can run out of is boosts. So you've got 38 trades, which is 19 rounds of trading, and then 4 extra for the boost to get you to 42. So just make sure you use them unless you've got the perfect team, which most people don't. But we have Harrison there, had a really tough one, obviously 13 for him. I think he'll bounce back, but I don't think you can hold him without the double. Unless you're sitting him on the bench, I think you have to start a good center. When you've got guys like Oliver who can hit 30s back to back, get you 60, whereas Harrison could be anywhere between this 13. I don't think he'll go much lower than that, touch wood, all the way up to sort of 30, 40, sure. But all these other guys have that upside as well. And Zakarski without the double, both of those guys probably were, Zakarski I hoped for a little bit more, didn't see it. So I think he's fine to move on. Without the doubles, I don't think he can get burnt too much. All right, with the guard position, I think it's a little bit tougher there. So Cotton, Davis, both don't have a double this week. So with Davis having around 3 and 4 double, and he's not too expensive at 277 compared to Cotton at 448, Davis should be held, in my opinion. I think he, as I said, really slow start in that first half, got a bit lucky with a few points, and then played a lot better in that second against a good team too, and that are full court pressing and make it a little bit harder for someone like him, a smaller guard, who is quick, but his first game in the league was a bit of a scary one in that first half watching him. Will Hickey didn't perform that well, but got the minutes, so that was the big thing here, and I think he'll have an improved couple of games there. Whether that's 15 and 15, that's still good. That would be 30 points on the ball, 15 points if you cut it in half on the bench, and some cash gains, which would be nice. Henschel, I still don't understand why this is a rule. I imagine it's just too hard in the back end, but guys like Henschel, who don't have a double this week, but then have a double in round 3, this first score isn't going to count to his price rises, which is really tough. But enough on that. Let's move to the best guys on the list. So if you do have Cotton, you obviously have the pick of the litter. But the question is, do you want to trade him to one of these top guys, and then it stops you from getting another potential option at a good price in another position? That's the big worry at this point for you, and what you could and should be thinking of there. Do you go to a cheaper guy? Like personally, I don't have Illy in the side. He had a really good 31, and if he scores anywhere between 25 and 30 over the next couple of games, it'll obviously be great for my team as a starter, but also some cash generation, getting him closer to that 270 mark and just getting ourselves in the right direction. And that's what we want in this first month, especially with a lot of, later on down the track, heaps of doubles come up. If you can get close to, 4 or 5 doubles here, and you can focus on making money at the same time, the later things go for you, you'll have more of a gun team with that cash generation. And that's what I think the first few months are for in most Supercoach games, but especially this one, when all of your bench guys count as scoring. You need most of them to be, doing pretty well. You don't want to be sitting there with guys on a week in, week out basis getting 5 to 10 and just slowing you down. That 5 to 10 points that they can get if they're picking up a 20 compared to a 10, or a 6 compared to a 16, that's really going to add up across the scope of the season, especially when there's only 10 players in your full roster. So Adams is the guy. He has the double this week. He has a double in round 4. I think you can hold him through that period. So he would be the best guy on the list. Derek Walton Jr., a little bit cheaper than what Adams is there, 36k cheaper, and he's a really perfect captaincy option this week as well. Has the double, but then you'll move him on at that 356 price point the following round, given they don't have any doubles. Keandre Cook was good, but all these guys, I'm not mentioning them. Parker Jackson, Cartwright, they have a single this week. You're not buying those guys. Vasiljevic, same thing. DJ, he had a great game there. He was awesome. So he's an option next week. But you've got Dellavedova and Illy, the two best Melbourne United guys. They're going to have doubles in round 2 and 3. So Illy's the cheapest. Dellavedova's at 312. And both of these guys are definitely options in my side. If I want to get 5 full double guys, then Dellavedova and Illy are the two guys that I will be potentially looking to buy. I'm trying to go through some other scenarios because I don't know if Delly's going to have that massive ceiling that we saw from some of these other guys. Like Walton Jr. didn't shoot the ball well. We still picked up a 39. But you can look at Delly. He didn't have any steals, any blocks. So usually you could see at least a steal from Delly. So there's a few things that could have gone better, but he scored the ball really well. So yeah, some options there. Obviously, Walton Jr. is awesome as a captaincy, same as Jalen Adams. They're the two top guys, in my opinion, in that guard spot. Darius Days, if I end up with Delly and Illy, I'll be captaining Darius in that one. But we'll get to that with my trades later on down the week. Davis, as I said, hold. Make sure you get Henschel. It doesn't have to be this week. It can be the following week at 69k. But if it helps you get a top gun like Jalen Adams, who's the best captaincy option this week, then that's awesome. Guys like Matt Mooney got 26, did a decent job for you. But yeah, I was interested in him if Cartwright wasn't going to be there, which he was, and he dominated, so that made sense. Wisekamp, Harvey, all solid. They've got doubles this week. Should still be able to score well, potentially and hopefully better than what they did. So if you do own those guys, you're holding for another week, and then you're moving on from there. Looking down the list, Casey Prather, if you did own him, he picked up a bunch of good points at the back end when they were making that comeback. He can be held, he can be sold as well if you need him to fund another trade, or to get to another guy that should make some money this week. And that's the big thing. If you can get a lot of guys in your team that are going to make some money this week, then you can move them on to guys that are going to be playing their third game the following round. And then you can cycle all of those cash rises and get things moving in the right direction. That's the biggest thing you want to be doing there. Guys like Bradshaw picked up a 17. Don't have a double this week. They need to be moved on because, the last thing, yes, they have a double in round 3, but they will likely be losing money if he scores another 20, 25. He will lose money or not gain money, which is something you don't want to have. There's a few other guys that are interesting. The biggest one's probably Owen Foxwell, who had a really good game at 98k. He's the only real guard that you'd be looking at that is going to make some decent money if he happens to do well in his double, and then he can be moved on following that this week. You got Glover, you got Hickey. They're both okay. They'll make a bit of cash, but not someone I think you really want to push and target. And then there's a few guys in here that we'll look to next week. And that's where you need to look at. Probably 2 rounds in advance is probably the easiest to look at as potential trades and who you might want to be looking at targeting. We mentioned Lat Mayen at that sort of 130 odd price, that if things work out for him again this week, if he scores a 20 odd or 30, he's going to go up massive in round 3. And he'll have a double as well. So he's one of those guys you can slot on the bench, most likely, or in the start if you're short. But he's going to make you some money, score some decent points for you. Has potential to go low, but he's 130k. A lot of, all of those guys have potential to go low. So, yeah, really, really interesting, that one. Nathan Sobey, if you own him, bit of a tough one for him. I think he'll be better for it. But at 349k, can you just flip him to Walton Jr., who looked a lot better and has more of an upside? They're the type of things to look at. And just keeping an eye on some of these guys like Sobey, For later on, you've got Jordan Crawford who picked up a 12. When they have their next double after round 3 and round 5, it could be a lot cheaper. All the type of things you need to look at across the board here. You've got Ian Clark, you've got Liafa, all scored low, and Chris Golding. They're all going to have some nice price drops, and then they could become options later down the track. It doesn't mean that if they weren't an option in round 1 or 2 or 3 that they're not an option for the year. Obviously, there's price changes happen massively, and that's going to play a factor in you deciding who's going to be in and out of your side. So there you go. That's the forwards, the centers, and the guards there. Plenty of options, plenty of things to think about for your side. Do you want to go captaincy hunting again? Do you want to look towards the next 2 weeks? Do you want to just get guys that are going to make cash this week and maybe forgo a couple of points potentially? All the questions you need to ask yourself, and what I'm asking myself, and I will over the next few days until lockout for round 2 is going to be Thursday night. And most of the games, apart from the Perth game this week, are going to be at a reasonable hour, not extremely late like they were this week. But thanks for being here for round 1, guys. I hope you did well. I'm very happy with my 250 start, and I hope to do really well in this round 2 and 3 little couple of game fixture. It's going to be fun.